Right.
Yeah, I can just stop. You know, I do that, all right, Lord, you know, there should be one page left in the chapter, it's fine.
That's why whenever I get my.
Yeah, that's just in here fixing that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so that will no longer be an issue, but yeah, that was the one.
What's the?
All right, folks, welcome. Go ahead and check in for me if you have not already done so.
I forget every time.
Every time I type it. Shouldn't I have this down right now? Yeah, how cute this is. Hot girls. I run it because I had to make 3 palm bowls. So my inner.
Yes.
I was like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it. I was like, well, I guess.
I literally just got the shirt that says hot girls reflex.
Hot girls we put. Oh, I need that. I literally need to been in here reading. I need that
Oh
shirt.
my gosh, I brought it. Oh my gosh, my best friend loves that bunny.
This is the second one out of the series. And I just bought the 3rd one. I'm in the middle of this little series.
All right,
It's like
we all
all
good?
Frida's book.
I love Frida. She's
All right,
so
first of all, a couple of you asked me, thank you. But my wife is doing fine. She's in a lot of pain at the moment, so she had to get a total knee replacement surgery. So she's in a lot of pain. But she's where she's supposed to be. Her sister flew in last night, which is why I can't be here. Not that I'm the important part of this equation, but I am very sleep deprived. From a night on a hospital couch to then a night waking up every 2 hours to give her ice, so. My role is much better than getting my knee removed, but if I seem a little lethargic, I am. So bear with me. But thanks for your flexibility. I know how sad you were to miss class on Tuesday, so thanks. All right, today, we're gonna talk about design, sort of more specifically, design and causation. So, we've learned about questionnaires and measurement level, and how we write questionnaires to be at a certain measurement level. And I've told you multiple times, trust me, that measurement level is gonna matter later. Still not yet. But today we're gonna talk about the design or the process of collecting data, and how that process influences the conclusions we can draw. So I wanted to get started. Just take 15 seconds, just in your mind. Think about your field or your desired job for the future, and what are the outcomes or goals of that job? So for example, I want to be an underwater basket weaver instructor. I want people to get increased self-esteem out of that. So your field, what do you want the outcome, and for most of it's the customer experience? What do you want that to be? Take 15 seconds and just think about that. Okay, give me a few. Yeah.
I'm thinking specifically for hospitality,
Okay.
the outcome, like you want them to have a good stay.
Okay, a good stay, we would call that like satisfaction.
Yeah.
We'll be broad here and just say customer satisfaction. Good, what else? Yeah, so,
For like rec therapy, like increase social skills, increase, like an increase in leisure education and, learning different adaptive techniques.
okay, just gonna put, those are all great, I'm just gonna list 2 of them. Social skills and leisure education. Or say leisure knowledge, really. We've got rec therapy, tourism, parks, sports folks, what do you have, Joe?
For park, it's probably a reduction in environmental impact.
A good list, but anybody want to add anything just out of? So now, either think about yours or think about these, if it's helpful. It's been another 15-ish seconds thinking about what causes these things to happen? What leads to customer satisfaction? What leads to social skills? What leads to leisure knowledge? What leads to reduction in environmental impact? What is the cause? If this is the effect or the outcome, what is the cause or potential causes for this? Take 15, 20 seconds, think about that. Okay. What do we got? Starting with a new guide. Let's think about, let's come back to, oh, let's start with customer satisfaction. It's kind of broad for good and bad. But customer satisfaction at a hotel, what makes people happy with their stay? Q?
Good customer service, a
Okay.
smile.
Customer service. Good. What else?
I mean, like just making sure that everything is like ready on arrival, like if someone's arriving, the exact room they wanted.
Room ready. Yeah, ready.
Quality,
The quality of, be more specific for me.
like the quality of like the room or like the quality of their interactions with their staff.
Quality of room, quality of interactions. Great. I saw another hand.
I was just gonna say cleanliness.
Cleanliness, great. Okay, those are all good. Let's move on. Social skills. What, in a rec therapy setting or a Parks and Rec sports setting, nonprofit setting, what helps people increase their social skills? What leads to improved social skills?
Group therapy.
Group therapy. Okay. What else? Maybe take it out of the rec therapy context, like just in general, what helps people have better social skills?
Presenting in front of peers.
Okay, so
Exposure.
exposure, that's a good word for that.
That's a good word, actually.
Okay, good. All right. What, I'm gonna skip this one, it's a little tricky and we're doing good. What would help people with, reduce environmental impact? Grace, this Grace.
Teaching them about what their impact does.
Okay, so education. Great. Okay. What else? What do parks try to do to reduce environmental impact? They educate people.
They have like multiple trash cans.
Yep, okay, so yeah, that's
With
great.
Signage.
Yeah, signage. Having trash cans. Great, those are all great. Okay. So, what our goal is, really in evaluation and research, is to figure out if these things actually make these things happen, okay? If I add more signs, will that reduce environmental impact, okay? If people go to group therapy, will they have better social skills, okay? If people's room is ready when they arrive, will they have a better, higher customer satisfaction? And then even to take that a step further, we can get into how much do each of these things matter, right? So if I can only do one of these things, okay, if I can have good customer service, the room ready, a clean room, if I can only do one of them, what's most important? What's gonna lead to them being satisfied? Okay, so that's ultimately what we're trying to get at. And we can do that through design. All right. I'm gonna give you a brief overview of the three designs. Your book talks about it a little bit differently, just as a warning. Then we're gonna do a little, our own designed experiment, and then we're gonna come back and give another overview. So if you don't catch the overview right now, don't worry about it. So we're gonna talk about three different types of designs. The first one is cross-sectional. In your book, this falls under the category of non-experimental. Cross-sectional simply means I am collecting data based on one point in time. I'm collecting data based in one point in time. Now, that does not mean that if I'm giving out a survey, everybody fills out the survey at the same time. It means when you fill out the survey, you're responding based on a certain time point. Like, how do you feel now? What's your satisfaction now? Okay, so one point in time. Okay. The next one is called longitudinal. Think of long over a long period of time. In a longitudinal design, we are collecting data at multiple points in time. The most common form of longitudinal design and evaluation is what we call a pre-test, pre-post test. So, and we're gonna do an example of that, but it's basically like, I measure, let's say your stress, and then I give you an activity, and then I measure your stress again. So I do pre the activity, I do the activity, I do the post activity. So I measure your social skills before group therapy, then we do group therapy, then I measure your social skills again to see if it's different. And then the last one is experimental. Experimental gets complicated, and we'll talk about it in detail when we get there. But experimental, the key is we're trying to control for spuriousness, which is things, control for, pardon my language, but this might make it remember, trying to control for all the random shit, okay, that might cause something. Okay, what are other like random things that would cause someone's customer satisfaction, that would cause reduction in environmental impact or an increase in environmental, like what's the random things we're not thinking about? So in an experimental design, we're trying to control, and maybe just make it memorable, control for random shit. Okay, is what we're trying to do. Okay, let's give a little example. Okay. I'm gonna cut the room in half here, so make braces that way. Yeah, well, where's the table ends there, so Savannah's gonna go that way, okay? So over here on my left, this side, you are group 1, okay? This side, you are group 2, okay? Group 1, group 2. Okay. You know how this works, you're gonna fill out a very short survey, it's the same mood measures we've seen before.
But
Okay, same mood measures we've seen before. Take a minute.
I honestly like, I know this was a question last time and I didn't understand last time. What is
Vigorous?
Yeah.
Vigorous or rigorous? Oh, vigor, oh, it's on there, vigorous. Vigorous, vitality, energetic. Yeah. Yep, thanks.
no, me, because I just.
It's not gonna play a different game. Bigger. Yeah, bigger.
Yeah. Not energetic. So is there ever something that can be so big? I'm like, not at all.
I feel like bigger.
No. It's quite, it's like, it seems like. you're
Yeah,
like-
it's just.
Like,
Like it seems like you're literally about to talk, you know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Wait, what?
Doesn't match up.
I knew where he's at.
No, I said or.
Me, yeah, probably.
All right, everybody got that? Okay. Group 1, you're gonna stay in here with me for a couple minutes. Group 2,
Wait. Oh, geez. I think one, because I thought this was.
okay, did I flip it? Is that okay?
No.
All right, so,
I-
so you're staying here, so don't just screw up, okay. So group 2, with my sincerest apologies, it's hot. You're gonna get up in a second, you're gonna walk outside. You're gonna you can stay on the 3rd floor, a lap around, so you'll go that way, you'll go around back past all the air conditioning units. And take one nice little walk around in the heat. All right, and then return. When you return, just stay out there for a minute. I think we'll be done in time. But just to not mess up this group, just stay out there for a moment in the little lobby area and I'll come to you. Okay? Okay, so, I think we'll show this.
I'd be fine walking.
Usually just online. Yeah. I need some whimsy in my life.
Why my ears pierced?
Close your eyes. Take a few moments to calm.
All right, this group, just put your stuff down. We're gonna take a minute.
Close your eyes. We'll take a few moments to calm your mind and body. Soften your face, your neck, and shoulders. Do your best to fully let go. And turn your attention to the breath, the calming breath, the soothing breath. Take long, slow breath, full and deep. Breathing in, I am calm. Breathing out, I'm at peace.
Okay. Now you're gonna take this, it's the same survey, but make sure you do it again. So scan this and answer those questions again.
You know what? I'm
That
really
really centered me.
I'm like, I.
Because I was my fiasco with like.
My bed right now is like, girl, I can
They must
feel.
be pissed off. I know.
Not at all, not at all. So then.
Not at all.
Yeah, that, I've never read that. Okay.
Much slower walkers than that. I should have warned people that did not skip class now.
Imagine.
Will anyone take their slide?
Yeah, no one took any
Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
rookies.
Yeah.
Literally.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's
I'm not.
Yeah.
Not wasting my time with that bullshit.
Like on the, the question.
That one is them. Me.
I didn't look at the chapters, I switched up with that.
Like actually, she didn't respond to my emails. I'm emailing her during my break, and I'm saying,
Me too.
yeah, just FYI, I don't know if you're ignoring.
Like the section on what the personal sampling are is a whole
Here's
different
my
section.
ideas
And
and
also
like,
the relationship.
I don't know what it is next week, so hope you can understand and maybe it's not that what you.
Yeah.
That was.
Okay.
Why did they go?
Go ahead and scan that and
Be the last.
it's gonna be the same.
I don't know, I just feel like you will always hear the nice guys, please from someone.
Thank you so much. That sounds like a backhand
No.
compliment.
No, for real. You guys, it's walking for a lot longer than. I was like, rookies. How was your walk?
Didn't even know that existed.
I just wanna be
It
at-
blends in so well.
Wow, that's not very good.
And the stairs exist.
Can't even respond to my email.
I'm like, okay, calm down.
Yeah, how long do you think?
I'm really aggravated. I was like, really aggravated.
Like, make a decision. You personally, like, that's what means, like, actually. I've never been covered.
Yeah.
But I was like.
Sure as I want to class now.
Like, I'm like, it's no more than 2 years. Yeah, breakfast sandwich before I go. Okay, it was 20, but let's not for like.
I'm really bad at like, just make sure people
Oh,
like.
I'm the same way. If I'm like walking on campus, I'm just in my own little world.
Yeah.
All right, everybody finish that up? Okay, I miss having a TA because I'd have my TA run the data really quick, but we'll have to wait until next week to find out. But let's talk through design and then we'll talk through what that looked like. So let's say this was my question I was interested in, this meditation, which by the way, those of you who walk with people in the room, get a little 1-minute meditation. Okay. So let's say, does meditation decrease stress? Let's say this was the question I wanted to answer. One way to do that would be to give out a survey, okay? Ask people if they meditate or how much they meditate, and then ask them about their stress level. And then I can compare. Okay? People who meditate have lower stress than people who do not. Or do people who meditate more have lower stress levels than people who meditate less? So that is a cross-sectional design. In a cross-sectional design, so survey based on a single point in time, I'm able to tell, so this is possible, if things are correlated or related or different. So in other words, in that design, I could tell if people who meditate have different stress levels than people who do not. Okay, I can tell if people who meditate more have less stress levels than people who do not. I can tell if things are related or different. However, I can't tell in which order things happened. Time order is what I wrote up there, time order. Okay. I can't tell in which order things happened. If I want to know if meditation decreases stress, I need to know that your stress changed after you meditated. If I ask you in a survey, do you meditate and what's your stress level like? I don't know which order those things happened. It may be, let's say I find out that people who meditate are less stressed than people who do not. It may be that meditation decreases their stress. It may be that people who are less stressed out are more likely to meditate. I don't know. So let's take hiking, for example. If I told you hiking decreases depression. That's true. We know that from a lot of different things. But if I just told you that, I gave people a survey, I found out that people who hike are less depressed than people who do not hike. Okay, it might be that hiking decreases depression. It also might be that people who are not depressed are more likely to go hiking, which makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Because if you're depressed, you're going to crawl in bed. You're not going to go hiking. So in a cross-sectional or survey design, I can tell if things are related or different. I cannot tell if one thing happened after the other. Because of this, I can't tell if A caused B or B caused A. Did hiking decrease stress, or did I go hiking because I wasn't stressed or lonely, whichever I said? Did meditation decrease stress, or did I meditate because I wasn't stressed? I can't tell which the order is. Okay, so that is cross-sectional design, sometimes called a survey design. Okay. I'm already hinting at this, but if we want to ultimately say that one thing caused another, right? So again, if we want to say that going to group therapy causes social skills, okay, we have to demonstrate three things. There's three criteria for causality. Three criteria for causality. Okay. The first thing we have to demonstrate is that things are related or different. That people who go to group therapy have better social skills than people who do not. That people who go hiking have less depression than people who do not. The second thing is time order, that one thing happened after another. That after I went hiking, my depression decreased. That after I meditated, my stress decreased. Okay. The third thing is what's technically called non-spuriousness. You can refer to it as control or
I thought you put non-suspiciousness, like literally.
if it helps you remember, we can refer to this as the random shit. Okay. So, yeah, for some reason I'm willing to say in class, but I'm not willing to put it on the board. So by this, I mean, are there other things that we didn't consider that are what caused the outcome? So let's take our little example that we did with all of you, and we don't know the results yet. But let's say that people who went for a walk were in worse mood than people who stayed and meditated. Okay. That gets our related. That gets at our time order because we measured their mood or their mood change between walking. Okay. What else might have influenced their mood other than walking? Megan?
The heat.
It's hot. Yeah. Maybe it had nothing to do with walking. Maybe it's just hot. Okay. So that's that we call it non-spuriousness. Or we're trying to control for it, we're trying to eliminate that, or we're trying to control for the no random shit. No random shit impacting our results. So a survey design, the press, you can see what I said. I hooked the marker to my shirt. Let's hope I didn't. No damage. So in a cross-sectional and a survey design, we can tell things are related. We can't tell that one thing happened after another, and we can't tell that there aren't other things going on. Now, I'm gonna tell you, this is the design we use most often. We do it because it's the easiest. But there are limitations to it. So your job as a professional is gonna be to realize that you do this because it's the easiest, to try to draw some conclusions, and also realize there's some limitations. So you're gonna have to make professional judgment. Okay. Longitudinal, again, multiple points in time. Okay, for our purposes, most likely that's a pre and post test. You could obviously do it multiple times. I did a study where we're trying to decrease parents of youth sport participants. We're trying to decrease their stress levels. We had them complete these writing exercises and then measure their stress levels, and we did it 6 times. Okay, it didn't work, unfortunately. But longitudinal, multiple points in time. So what we just did had a longitudinal component to it, because we had a pre-test, then you did your meditation, or you went for a walk, and we had a post-test that was longitudinal. Bless you. I can tell if things are different or not. Different or related. I can tell if after you went for a walk, if your mood got better or worse. I can tell if after you meditated, if your mood got better or worse. I know time order. Okay. Because I measured mood, you went for a walk, I measured mood. I know what order those things happened in. As we just described, I still might have spuriousness or random shit. In this case, it was heat. It could have been other things. Last semester, when we did this, several of the girls got hit on by some really creepy guy. Their mood was not better after the walk, but it wasn't something we planned for. Okay. All right. Before I get to experimental, let's review a little bit. So, cross-sectional, I can tell things are related. Okay, I don't know one thing happened after another, and I don't know if there aren't other things going on. I gave you this example earlier, right? So I proposed to you, and the data supports me, that as shark attacks increase, ice cream sales increase. And in fact, here's the data to prove my point. Okay, the blue line is ice cream sales. The red line is shark attacks. We can see they're almost identical in line. Therefore, ice cream sales cause shark attacks. Right? Of course not. That's ludicrous. And we know this. It's all about the summer. Summer is that spuriousness. It's that other thing we weren't thinking about. Okay. So just because things are correlated or related does not mean that one thing caused another. And I should probably take it off the slide. It's just confusing. But this website is a whole bunch of things that are related and have absolutely nothing to do with each other. But there's silly ones like people who eat more cheese are more likely to buy their gas at QT. I mean, like it's all kinds of silly things. Okay, so correlation is not causation, which I forget someone said that to us earlier. Okay, correlation, things are related. Causation, one thing caused another. Okay. And longitudinal, we just do this. Sorry, I'm doing most of this on the board rather than the slide. Okay. Experimental design is an attempt to control for all possible causes. It puts control for the random shit. Now, how we do that gets really tricky, especially for us. We're in a people profession. It's a little easier if you're doing physics and you do everything in a laboratory and you've got this nice controlled environment. Okay? We do not have a nice controlled environment when dealing with people. So, what we do is a little trick. Okay. And the term you need to know here is, I don't know where to put it, but random. You know what random is? Assignment. Random assignment. There are other ways to do this. For our purposes, here's the experimental design I want you to learn. Let's say I wanted to know if meditation decreases stress. What I would do is I would take my population, I would take you all, take my sample, and I would randomly assign you to two groups. Okay. Has to be random. And in a couple weeks, we'll talk about sampling, we'll talk about how to be random, but you basically understand that term, right? It has to be random. I can't say girls in one group, boys in one group. I can't say left-handed people in one group, right-handed people in one group, tourism majors in one group, everybody else in another group. Okay, that's not random, that's introducing a factor. It has to be completely random. Okay. What that does, when you have a large enough group of people, is it equally distributes the random shit. It equally distributes the spuriousness, okay? If I have a large enough group of people, which by the way is not nearly as large, you probably think it's usually a couple hundred, will statistically get us there, okay? And I randomly divide them into two groups, then all that spuriousness, group A has it all, group B has the same. Okay, it works, again, if you have a large enough people. Except for one difference, which is the thing I want to test. In this case, it's meditation. So I randomly divide into two groups. One group gets meditation, the other group doesn't. Everything else is theoretically the same because I randomly assigned. Okay. Therefore, I know that all those random factors aren't relevant because both groups had them. Both groups had them. Okay. So key here is random assignment into groups. And then a large enough group, statistically, if they're a large enough group. And you don't, at this point, need to know what that is. It's usually a couple hundred. Depends on a lot of factors. Usually a couple hundred. Okay. If I have all of those things in place, then I can definitively say that one thing calls the other thing. I'm controlling for all possible clauses. The other thing we'll do sometimes is if there is something spurious that we think might be influencing, we just remove it. We remove any differences. So let's say I thought that major was influencing the outcome. Then I would make sure I only had one major in my study. Everybody has a tourism major. Okay. And this is when research gets ridiculous sometimes, because then you'll get like stress and meditation. Does stress decrease meditation in tourism majors? And then someone else writes, does stress decrease meditation in parks and rec majors? And it gets a little absurd. I don't know why I have marker issues today.
Sleep deprived.
Yeah, thank you. Those things are related. I'm sleep deprived and I'm having marker troubles. Okay, there's time order. I'm sleep deprived and then I dropped my marker. Okay, but there's probably still some random shit that influences. So that's a little longitudinal example we gave. Okay. You will, on your exam, have to reproduce this table. Okay, and this one I won't give to you. You will have to reproduce it. Okay, I'll ask you, what are the three designs? What are the three criteria for causation? I'll basically say, like, redo this table.
You get to put random.
You can put random shit, yeah. As long as you understand it, again, if that works for you, whatever works for you. Okay, you can put control for random shit. You'll have to reproduce these. And again, as professionals, part of what I want you to know, is you're overwhelmingly gonna do cross-sectional design. You've got to draw conclusions from that, like, it's the nature of what we do. Like, if you said that people who meditate or people who go hiking are less depressed than people who are not, then you're gonna say, okay, let's have people go hiking. You're not gonna say, well, that could be that people who are less depressed are more likely to go hiking, so we're not gonna do anything. Right, so you've gotta draw some reasonable conclusions, but I want you to be aware of the limitations. Spuriousness, spur, like a cowboy spur. I like, yeah, and then IOU. NESS. On an exam, you're welcome to do something like this. You can go SPUR, then I'm gonna write really messy. And then it ends with an S. Although I will tell you, the other thing on exam, I give you a vocab list just to like broaden your memory and also help you with spelling if that's gonna bother you. But yeah, you're also welcome to use that trick. I'm gonna write this part really messy because I don't actually know how to spell it. Okay. What questions do you have about this piece? We have another piece today. Did they fix the clock? They told me they did. No, they did. What questions do you have? I don't have a great trick for you other than you just gotta kind of memorize this, I think. I mean, there's some logic to it. If you think through the logic, there's some logic to it. But yeah, listen.
Will we have to provide examples for each of that, or just we need to memorize?
I'm trying to think how I do it. I don't remember right off. But I will tell you again, like I will tell you a week before the test, here's the questions you're gonna get. You're gonna know exactly what they are. What you'll get is I might say, here's a good example. You did a survey and you found out that people who go hiking are less depressed than people who do not. What type of design is that? What criteria of causation is it? And if one conclusion is people who go hiking or hiking decreases depression, what's the other conclusion? Assuming no spuriousness. And the other conclusion is that people who are less depressed are more likely to go hiking. Would be something like that. But again, you will, and we're still about a month, not quite a month out. You're gonna know exactly, I'm not kidding, exactly what questions you're gonna see, okay? With one small exception, I give you 4 questions from your REQs that are literally randomly pulled. But that's a small piece, that was. You look confused. You good?
I hate exams.
I know you all do.
It's in person, right?
Yeah, it's in person. It's like old school on piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting. It's been a long time since I've had.
Yeah, and you know, you'll laugh at me, but I mean it when we talk about it. I'm gonna talk about them. It's not an exam, it's a chance to demonstrate your knowledge. It's a chance to prove to you and me what you know. So to the extent I can convince you, it's an opportunity, not something scary. That's what I hope. But again, there'll be no surprises. And if you're someone who like just completely freaks out and you don't do as well as you would like, there are lots of other ways to earn points in this class. So that's not going to kill you. We'll come back and practice at other times. Here's a example, just a little more dated than it used to be, but still relevant, of experimental design. Remember there was this thing, COVID thing, this awful thing that I keep trying to forget. Okay. And we rolled out all these vaccines and we had to know quickly as possible if they worked or not. So they did clinical trials which is a type of experimental design to see if it worked. I don't know how, but somehow I ended up in one of these clinical trials for Moderna. So how these things worked is you take your population, which in this case is everybody, you take, and we'll learn about sampling in a few weeks, don't worry, that's which way. Purposive samples, they wanted people with specific characteristics. Okay. They took that sample of people, in this case it was about 30,000 people. Okay. I was one of the 30,000. They randomly assigned to two groups. Okay. One group got the vaccine. Okay. One group got a shot of salt water. Okay. And that in this case was what they call double blind, meaning me as the patient did not know which one I got. Okay, I didn't know if they gave me the vaccine. I didn't know if they gave me salt water. Okay, and what's interesting about double blind is the people who gave me the shot didn't know either. Okay. And they were super strict. They had all these protocols, like 7 layers of different protocols to make sure that the people giving you the shot, and you did not know what you were getting, including the last one, which is what I laughed at because they went over all the details of like how they hide it, and then they walk in with like platter and the needles, and they're like, "Look away!" I'm like, "This is your last layer of security. Look away." So anyway, so in August of 2020, I got a shot. Okay, vaccines came out in January, or 2021. So I got a shot along with 30,000 other people. 15,000 got the vaccine, 15,000 got salt water. And then basically they compared to see who got COVID and who didn't. Okay, by randomly assigning, right, you've got all these random factors equally distributed among those two groups. Okay, so it's not that this group was more exposed, this group wasn't, like all this stuff's randomly distributed. And then they compared and they found out, people who got the shot got way, way, way less COVID, if you remember, it was like really, really strong than people who got salt water. And that's how they concluded that it works. I got salt water. And although it's double blind, the stories leak out about, I remember like side effects, right? Stories leak about the side effects and I had no side effects. So I was like, yeah, I didn't get it. And the doctor's like, well, some people don't get side effects. That just may be you. And I'm like, no, I don't believe it. But also through this, I was going in at one point once a week and then it down back to like once a month. I gave so much blood because they were constantly like testing me for everything, like all this stuff. And weird thing about research, they don't tell you. They only tell you if it's going to harm you or something. Otherwise, like I know nothing about all this blood. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting experience. I also made $2,000 doing this.
Sign me up.
Yeah, exactly. It was a pretty good deal. I paid for my vacation in Greece next summer.
If you could budget all of it. Like,
So again, experimental design, if we wanted to know how stress and if meditation change, we take a group of people, we'd randomly assign them to 2 groups. Okay. And then actually we don't even need to do a pre and post test. Okay. We often will, okay, but because we've randomly assigned them up front, and it's enough people, the assumption is that their stress is the same. And that actually usually works. It's a good idea to still do pre and post tests. So we really only need a post. So here's your table. So again, cross-sectional, and I mean, obviously I strongly encourage you to think about the logic of this, but it's also really easy to be like, yes, no, no, yes, yes, no, yes, yes, yes. Like it makes a nice little pattern. I want to cover up one other thing today, but what we just did was the most important part. So, what questions do you have? All right. This next part, it's useful to know. Don't stress too much about it. So if your brain's hurting right now and you missed some of this, it's okay. Mike should have already used me. So ultimately, the other question we're asking is, how do we know what we know? Which is a very like philosophical question. Like, how do we know what we know? So there's lots of ways. Okay, tradition. I know, what are things? I grew up, right? So my parents grew up in rural West Virginia. My mom grew up without electricity. Parents didn't go to college. My dad dropped out of high school. So I say that because I got lots of this like rural wisdom passed on to me from my mother. I'm having trouble repeating all of it because I was a kid and I rolled my eyes at all of it, whatever you know what I'm talking about. But I did get lots of things like, see, I can't think of anything. I'm gonna blame the sleep deprivation here. But yeah, lots of like cultural tradition. This is how you know when to plant tomatoes because the rabbit comes out 3 times that day. Like that's the kind of stuff my mother would teach me, right? We know from authority. Someone you trust told you. You know, some level, like you believe this to be true because you trust me at some level. Hopefully I explained it why, but at some level you trust it. And then we know from our own experience and observation, which is useful, but also flawed. Oh, here we go. Let's see if you can do a better job than I can. Let's take a little break from me talking. So take 30 seconds. What are some things you think you've learned through traditional knowledge that turned out to be wrong? And usually a few do. Take 30 seconds, think about it. Feel free to talk to each other. You just need a break.
Yeah. Mine is that the car light, you can turn on the car light. It's not illegal. It's not illegal.
That's the difference where you're writing nice, I'm just scratching it.
I think it would be like it has to. My handwriting doesn't. So the issue I have, but also everyone really responds to it. Right on to these other traditions. My dad was like, no, I've never gone.
All right, I want to hear, I hear you talking, so I want to hear. So share, let's share these. These are fun sometimes. I see some smiles. What do we got? Alyssa?
Growing up, they were telling us, can't drive with the light on because it's bad.
Oh, the interior light. Yeah, I got that one too.
They would tell me that it's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that one too.
Yes.
All did it.
Yeah.
No, literally like 3 days ago, my light wouldn't turn off and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be pulled over.
Yeah, I still that
I
one.
was like, oh no.
That's a good, what else?
You go outside with your hair wet, you're gonna get sick.
Oh my god.
Yep,
I
that's a
think
good
that
one.
actually does happen.
Uh-huh.
No,
Yeah.
if there's wind.
Correlation or causation? Yeah, go ahead.
My grandpa always told me that eating pizza crust, like any bread crust, makes your hair curlier. So because my hair is already naturally
It's
curly,
bread crust.
I would like
Okay,
stay
that's,
away from
that
it.
one's unique.
And I'd get mad because my hair would still be curly.
So, yeah.
I'm just thinking about this one, like I was told like if you swallowed your gum that it would turn into a watermelon in your stomach.
Oh, yeah, I've heard several. I haven't heard that one. I heard several swallowing gum, yeah. Bless you. Any others? Yeah, Meg.
So whenever I was really little, I was told that if you put salt on like a bird's tail, it would tame it.
Oh, that's, I hadn't heard that one. That's interesting. Anybody? I guess spell it. This is gonna be like, if you know, you know. Anybody, particularly guys, I think, hear one about going blind? Joe knows what I'm talking about, but it's maybe, it might be a generational thing. I'm just gonna, if you know, you know. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, all right. So these are all useful things, but actually I'm really talking now about your own experience and observation, right? So you might observe something incorrectly. You might overgeneralize just because it happened to you, therefore, because I went outside with my hair wet and got sick, therefore, this is a thing. Selective observation we're going to talk about in a second, and just like your reasoning might be flawed. You don't need to memorize these. That's when you're frantically writing. Just want you to be aware. So when we make observations on a daily basis, we're not really being systematic about it. We make casual observations. Certain things stand out to us more than another thing. Okay, so we don't have a system to make sure we're removing our bias. Oh, here's what I want. All right, let's work our brains for 30 seconds in different ways. So I'm going to tell you a color in a moment. And without writing anything down, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Look around the room, find as many things of that color as you can, okay, without writing it down. 30 seconds, find as much blue as you can, just silently go. Ten seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, just popcorn, shout it out. What do we got?
Chair.
Chairs, yep.
Shirts.
Shirts, lots of shirts.
Blue thing on the phone
Blue thing on the phone.
behind you.
Screen.
Yeah, but I
This-
think the screen.
this photo.
Oh, this, I was like,
The entire,
Board eraser.
the entire like base of the windows.
oh yeah, the trim, yep.
Yeah.
My eyes.
So it's Savannah's eyes, probably some other
The
eyes.
eye clicker icon.
The eye clicker icon,
Bag.
The flag.
recycling, the flag,
Blue pen.
blue pen, your apps,
That tiny blue light on the camera.
tiny blue light on the camera,
Colored pencils.
recycling bin, eye clicker I heard, I don't know if you can see, eraser, okay. So quite a lot of blue in here. So if you'd have walked in here and I said, oh gosh, there's so much blue in this room, you'd be like, it's really white, like, what are you talking about? So why were we able to find so much blue? Because you're looking for it, you're looking for it. The brain is wired because you've like preset it up to look for certain things, okay? When you look for things, you tend to find them. Has anybody ever like wanted something, whether maybe you wanted a new car, maybe you wanted a new Jeep, and all of a sudden every car you see driving down the road is a Jeep? You're like, they're everywhere. No, you're looking for them. It hasn't changed. Okay. Our brain is naturally wired to see things we look for. And I'm gonna make a little side point. I teach a youth development class sometimes, hopefully back this spring. Anybody work with kids? Yeah, a few of you. So I always like this lesson when working with kids. When you work with kids, if you come in expecting them to be little pains in the rear brats, then you're gonna find that they're little pains in the rear brats. Okay. If you work with your kids and you walk in expecting them to be these amazing, cool little human beings, you will find amazing, cool little human beings. And that's true for everything, right? It's true for everything. It's true when meeting people, it's true when going to events, like your expectations, you're gonna find that. Okay. But how this relates to observation, if I want to know if a lot of Arizona State students wear Adidas, okay, and I don't really have a system for doing that, you're like, who's looking at me? Am I wearing Adidas? You're gonna start seeing it everywhere, and you're like, oh my gosh, Adidas is everywhere. It hasn't changed. You just start looking for it. So what we want to be is be more systematic about it. So maybe I'm going to count every other person or something. Selective observation. Here's just a fancy word for you. I don't have that slide. Come back to me. Tautology, T-A-U-T, taught, and then ology. Tautology is a fancy word for circular reasoning. statement is true in every possible phrasing. If it's in stock, we have it. Well, yeah, that's always true. You actually see quite a bit of this. Sorry, my brain really isn't working today. So when doing in research, when thinking about research, we just want to try to be systematic and thoughtful and have a process, okay, for how we address these things. I had other slides on here. Become accountable. All right, real quick, I'm gonna tell it to you. So we often have three types of knowledge broadly. So one is called positivist. Positivist sounds like positive. I am positive, not positive in like opposite of negative, but like I am certain. I am certain that this happened. Okay. A positivist, okay, believes that we can know with absolute certainty little t truth. Okay. I can know for sure, okay, that going to group therapy increases social skills. Okay. A positivist would say that there is a thing called self-esteem. I know exactly what it is. We can all agree at what it is. Okay. This actually comes from Plato. Plato, the philosopher, believed there was a separate world where reality existed, where there was like this object that was love and beauty and all these things. So a positive would say, so that sounds nice, but when we think about more abstract things like beauty, a positive would say there's a thing called beauty. We can all know exactly what it is. And there is a truth called beauty. Here's what it is. Okay. At the other end, we have, your book uses the term interpretivist. You'll sometimes hear constructionist. Interpretists or constructionists would state that knowledge or truth is constantly socially negotiated. We decide amongst ourselves what it is. So, do we decide amongst ourselves what self-esteem is? Or is there a thing called self-esteem? Beauty, is there a thing called beauty? Or do we decide what it is amongst ourselves? And then therefore, is it constantly changing? Race ethnicity is kind of an interesting one, right? Because a positivist would say that we have different races, black, white, Latina, whatever, and there are particular genetic markers, and that's what they are, and period, they exist. Okay. An interpretist would say that those things exist along a continuum. It's really complex, and we are constantly deciding what is what. Okay. We are agreeing on it, and by the way, that can change. Okay. Gender is kind of becoming a good example. Okay. So for a long time, and even today, for large segments of the population, I'm not trying to make any point here, but it's a good example. We would have said that there's X chromosome, Y chromosome, X, Y, whatever. I'm not a geneticist, don't ask me. But there's particular genetic markers that are gender. That's male, that's female, period. Okay. Now we do know that gender is more complicated than that. Okay. And so on the other end of that spectrum, I would say we're deciding, socially deciding what's male, what's female. Okay. And that's changing. Now, before you jump too far, and I'll pause a little bit of what I'll tell you. It's somewhere in between those things, right? Are there certain genetic differences? Yeah, of course there are. Like you're silly. But are we socially deciding what constitutes male, what constitutes female? Yeah, we are. Okay. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not, right? You may have seen the boxer in the Olympics, right? Who had, was accused of being transgender. She wasn't, she had high testosterone levels. She presented very male, okay? So we're constantly deciding. So, that's the two kind of anchors. In evaluation, for the most part, okay, we approach it with what's called postpositivism. Okay. A postpositivist would say, no, maybe we can't absolutely know what beauty is. Maybe there's not some absolute truth that is beauty, but we can all agree to a definition that we can work with. And there's a really practical reason for doing this evaluation. It allows us to make causal statements. If you get into interpretivism, it becomes like, well, but, I mean, yeah, maybe, it just gets really complicated. Okay. You get, and I have some colleagues that are purists. They're like, you are this or you are this. This is your worldview. You are one or the other. Okay. I tend to think it depends on what you're studying. Some things are definitely socially constructed. Some things are, you know, yes, this table exists. Now someone's going to tell me this table is 99% air. And yes, I know it is, but okay. So this can get way more complicated than what I've presented you. But I think it's useful to at least be aware. Your book talks about this as paradigms. Okay, in an evaluation, we tend to be up here. Like, it's useful to us to assume that there's a thing called self-esteem, and we're going to agree what it is. Okay, whether that's socially negotiated or not, we're going to agree what that is. Okay. Sorry, folks, I am all over the place today. All right, so here's what's going to be coming up in the next week or so. On Tuesday, we're going to review a little bit. And then much like we did last week, where most of the class was you practicing an activity, you're going to have an activity and you're going to work on it. And we're going to talk about it. It'll look very similar to that. And very similarly, I'll also post a video afterwards, which reminder that is up on Canvas. The last thing to practice. Then we're going to start getting ready for your project. Your project, change the word. It's going to be a longitudinal design. Okay. And you are going to be your own study group. Okay. So we're going to talk about that, narrow it down a little bit with your input. App 2 is still a little bit away. App 2 hopefully is meant to be pretty easy. It's just a skill I need you to have. I'll get App 1 graded as fast as I can. Normally I say a week. I'm a little late this time. Give me some grace. I appreciate it. Questions? Yeah, Q.
I'm just wondering if I could like get the definition again for the
Interpreters would say that truth is socially negotiated and constructed amongst each other.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Real quick, so, sorry.
This is-
Presentation to the.
Oh, yeah, it's because I need to update it. Sorry.
Okay.
I need to update the instructions, something on and change on app 2. I promise you it's gonna be fairly simple. And we've got time. Good. She's in a lot of pain, but that's to be expected. Thank you for asking. Questions, other questions, comments? Snide remarks? Have a wonderful weekend. The weather's supposed to drop below 100 for the first time in forever.
See, this class is so cold, I have to put this on, and then to leave this class, I have to get prepared to like sweat my ass.
Today, when you have your
Yeah, but I have to go move my car.
Oh, I'm going tonight, girl. Yeah,